good evening, and thank you all so much for being here. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this unique interdisciplinary, interdepartmental collaboration between the Hendrix College Choir and our friends in the Department of Psychology. Just a brief bit of background. Earlier in this year, I had some conversations with Dr. Kennedy that you'll be hearing from about the need to better acknowledge mental health issues on the Hendrix campus, and I felt like it would be a very fitting and appropriate and an important opportunity for us as a musical ensemble to lend our voice, our artistic voice and identity to some of the issues that are affecting our students' lives here on this campus today. And so what you're going to hear today is a series of pieces and some discussions from our friends in psychology that talk about mental health in its many different ways, I guess you could say. Not the most articulate description, but I think you'll enjoy it. A lot of the music focuses on calmness and peace and solitude and repose, and I hope you learn something. I hope the music puts you in a good place mentally so that you can leave and enjoy this beautiful evening and enjoy the wonderful weather and the companionship of the people that you're here with, the people that you love, the people that you know on stage. So without anything further, I'll just turn it over to our next speaker. Thank you very much.
What is hygge? So when searching to find the happiest people in the world, who the world are, the Danish are consistently ranked as finalists for this title according to the World Happiness Report. Their consistent ranking here has led most of the populations of the Western world to draw their attention to the Danish. So much so that popular books have been written to better understand Danish happiness. The Danish custom of hygge, a word that's best English translation is cozy togetherness, is arguably why these Danes are the happiest people in the world. The hygge atmosphere permeates all aspects of Danish life. It has to do with the atmosphere and the rich meals that you have with friends, the importance of lighting and home decor. Hygge represents a culture of striving to be present in the simple pleasures and sharing them with others. Hygge can be captured by the feeling of being wrapped up in a warm, fuzzy blanket, reading a book with a corner lamp, while glowing while rain repetitively taps on windows. Hygge can also be present as friends share the making of a meal or enjoy a picnic on a warm summer's day. Hygge can be as simple, though, as a cozy pair of socks. These experiences may seem familiar to you, and part of hygge is that as you reflect on some of these experiences that you've had, you're actually experiencing hygge. Although the intentionality of incorporating hygge into everyday life is at the center of Danish culture, know that the Danes do not have a monopoly on hygge or happiness. So as you go forth, we encourage you to look for small ways to bring hygge into your daily life. This evening, we hope that you will enjoy spending a cozy evening with us hearing hygge.
Mention a quick word about the piece that we opened with and the one we're about to sing. There is a rich tradition of choral music and community singing that is inexorably linked with Scandinavian culture. And while I was very disappointed not to find any Danish choral music, I found some great Swedish choral music, and it's just over the bridge, just right across the water. And so the first song that we sang there was a summer hymn that was sung at the Royal Princess wedding in Stockholm several years ago. It was also recorded by the Real Group, a vocal ensemble from Sweden, where an arrangement of that tune, their own recording of it, actually made the Swedish pop charts. It's a beautiful pastoral setting of a hymn that talks about enjoyment of nature and the beauty of the world around you. We'll sing one more Swedish piece for you. This is a jovial and silly arrangement of a folk tune called Och Jungfrun hon går i ringen, which is a depiction of a communal wedding where the young man, who of course in this great stereotype doesn't actually want to get married, is encouraged to be tied down with his future bride, and at the first opportunity he has, he runs away from the wedding party and they shoot him. So, you know, you can take from that what you want to, but we hope you enjoy Och Jungfrun hon går i ringen.
A little shorter than Dr. Morgan. I'd like for you to close your eyes, and I'd like for you to take a minute to recall any positive memories that you have of being in nature. You might call to mind the experience on being on top of a mountain and looking down at the valley below, days spent playing in a favorite park, or even that rare Arkansas snow day. For me, long beach days come to mind. The feeling of the sun on my face and the sand between my toes, looking out onto the vast and seemingly endless Atlantic Ocean, listening to the waves just rhythmically hit the shore. As human beings, we are fundamentally connected to nature. Indeed, we are nature. So perhaps it should come as no surprise that exposure to nature has been consistently found to benefit well-being. Studies about the psychological effects of nature are varied in their methods, but all point to the benefits that the natural world holds for us. For example, one of the most common emotional experiences we have in nature is that of awe. The experience of vastness, of feeling something greater than us. In turn, awe is associated with feelings of warmth and openness to other people, and the motivation to help others and become a better version of ourselves. Taking a short walk in nature has even been found to boost creativity, allowing us to think more flexibly and better see connections between different ideas. Studies even show that patients in hospital rooms with a view of nature recover more quickly than those in rooms without a view of nature. So as you head into finals, or even just into your weekend, think about how you can fold a bit more of nature into your days. Take a walk around campus as a study break. Read a book near a window. Take a moment here and there to just stop and feel the sun on your face. Step outside on a clear night just to look at the stars. Follow National Geographic on Instagram. And listen for the love of nature that is present in the next set of songs.
An appreciation of nature is a common theme we've all heard before, but what sets Afternoon on a Hill apart for me is one single note out of place in the piano that adds a very subtle hint of sadness to the melody. Have you ever had a perfect moment, one where time almost seemed to stop for you to savor this unforgettable point where you felt pure joy? Within these split seconds of peace and awe for the world around us, there is also sadness because we know that these moments will not last forever. During my first semester at Hendrix, Dr. Rosinski described this feeling in my TEC. She called it a niche utopia, which was this idea that perfect worlds do not exist. Instead, all we can ask for are these fleeting moments where we feel content with the world and are truly happy. Sometimes life gets stressful, and we tend to forget that most of the things we spend our time thinking and worry about are not forever. When I look back on things, I don't remember the stresses or little annoyances I faced. I think of the time I spent with my friends and my family, or the days where I sat outside appreciating the world around me. It's a bittersweet feeling when we move on, but that's just a part of starting a new adventure. I think Afternoon on a Hill really captures this feeling of reverence for nature and sorrow within joy. And I can't help but be reminded each time we sing it that these moments, these niche utopias, are the greatest gifts we can ask for in our lives.
The next two pieces are both based on poems by Edna St. Vincent Millay. The first, World I Cannot Hold Thee Close Enough, exemplifies the phrase, so beautiful it hurts, both in its words by Millay as well as its transformation into music by Colin Britt. This piece takes you through a variety of emotions experienced as you are in and reflecting on the beauty of the world. It starts with a state of awe and finishes with an intense sense of calm. In the beginning, the poem describes the intricate details that make nature so awe-inspiring. The wide gray skies, the woods that all but cry with color. The second part of the poem is more reflective, yet yearning for this moment to remain, if just for a bit longer. It perfectly captures a brief moment in time and the overwhelming emotions that many feel while in the presence of a particularly beautiful part of nature.
And now I have a question for you. With the exception of perhaps right now, when was the last time you were focused on the present moment? Not thinking about something that has already happened or worrying about what may happen next, but really paying attention to what was happening in the present moment. If you're anything like me, you have no idea. And ironically began worrying that your lack of presence in the present, both now and in the past, is really messing up your future. And this sort of runaway thinking is exactly why mindfulness meditation is so powerful. Jon Kabat-Zinn is credited with bringing Buddhist contemplation practices to the United States in the form of mindfulness meditation. He defines mindfulness as awareness that arises through paying attention, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. In the practice of mindfulness meditation, which can take many forms, a common approach is to focus your attention on your body, for example, on your breath. When your focus inevitably strays away from your breath and onto tomorrow's to-do list, you simply acknowledge that your focus has drifted and gently guide it back to your breathing. This is easier said than done, but in study after study, research shows that as little as one 15-minute session of mindfulness meditation can improve our ability to regulate our emotional reactions. More regular practice reduces stress, anxiety, depression, and rumination, and it increases ratings of quality of life, feelings of spirituality, empathy for others, and importantly, compassion for ourselves. Despite these benefits, the practice of mindfulness meditation still meets resistance in Western cultures. In the United States, we tend to associate happiness with displays of high-intensity emotions like excitement or joy. We are less likely to associate happiness with feelings of calmness, contentment, that are cultivated through mindfulness meditation. And in a world pushing for go, 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 and more, 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 you may not feel as though you can afford to take time to meditate. So I'll give you another pitch. The calmness and present-focused attention cultivated through mindfulness meditation is also associated with better memory and less susceptibility to distractions. So I hope you'll be able to find some calmness and presence in the next songs. That calmness may even help you during finals.
Andrew Fleming and I will be introducing the next set of pieces. The next two that you'll hear are both by Chen Yi, who's a Chinese composer living in America. She frequently borrows traditional Chinese folk tunes for her work. It was a real pleasure and a challenge learning these works in Mandarin with the choir. We were coached in Chinese by Professor Wenjia Lu here at Hendrix, who was gracious enough to come and help us with Chinese pronunciation, and that was a real treat. The pieces that you're going to hear that she's written, if the last two that we sang were very, very exuberant and highly romantic and expressive, her pieces are comparatively minimalist. They encourage you to be more focused on the present moment, which is why I chose them to go with this particular set. They are beautiful, they are simple, they are very, very cleanly arranged. The first one, the Feng Yang song, is a setting about playing instruments and singing music. And then the third one, the second one, sorry, the Flowing Stream is a more contemplative look at observing nature as one feels a sense of longing from someone in the very present moment.
After the Chen Yi pieces, we'll be singing a piece called The Bluebird. The Bluebird is a beautiful setting of a poem by Mary Elizabeth Coleridge to music by Charles Villiers Stanford. Coleridge's words paint a beautiful picture of a placid lake under a pale blue sky. In an instant, a bluebird flies across the lake and is reflected in the water. The bird is gone as soon as it comes, and so with it, the reflection also. Stanford highlights this fleeting moment with his music. The song, like the moment described in the poem, is short, fleeting, and very simply beautiful. For me, this is the crux of the piece. The piece embraces its brevity, depicting a mere moment in time. It reminds us that time passes quickly, and that as time passes, so do the people and things that move through it. The piece is hopeful, though. By its very nature, it also reminds us that as fleeting as the moments may be, they live on in our memory for as long as we keep them. As another year passes and another class of seniors graduates, the moments we share during our years here don't fly away, but rather they live on through the other choir members and those that we have met along the way. There's great hope in that, and a great love for the time that we've been able to share together.
In our culture, we tend to have negative perceptions and expectations about the aging process. For example, our stereotypes commonly associate loneliness with getting older. However, a lot can be learned about happiness by looking to the lives of older adults. Research consistently shows that on average, older adults experience more positive emotions, more satisfaction with their social lives, and indeed lower levels of loneliness than younger adults. The work of Stanford researcher Dr. Laura Carstensen helps us understand why this difference exists. In short, Carstensen finds that some of our most fundamental motivations change as we age. Whereas younger adults are more focused on expanding horizons, making new social connections, and gaining more information, older adults are more focused on deriving emotional meaning from life, a focus that is driven by an increased awareness and appreciation of the fact that our time on Earth is limited. As a result of these motivations, younger adults tend to have expansive social networks that include many acquaintances. Older adults tend to have much smaller social networks that have been pruned over time to focus on those individuals who mean the most to them. In turn, older adults tend to spend more time with the people they value most, and more time focused on the present moment than younger adults, both of which are believed to be at the root of their happier emotional lives. I think it's safe to say that all of us in this room lead busy lives, making our leisure time a precious commodity. And indeed, our time on Earth is limited. And so, regardless of your age, I challenge each of you to adopt the mindset of an older version of yourself and examine the use of your leisure time more closely. Think of the relationships in your life that you treasure the most. You can even think of the activities in your life that you treasure the most. Then, think about ways you can increase the time you spend with those people and those activities. Research suggests that doing so can help move future happiness into the present.
The Long Day Closes by Arthur Sullivan is a piece which inspires deep feelings of restfulness. The tone of the work is largely quiet and relates beautifully to the poetry that conjures up images of the last leaves of fall drifting towards the ground and lighted windows slowly fading into an eventual darkness. However, the true subject of the piece is not a good night's sleep, but the eventual and eternal sleep that we as human beings are all bound to. The Long Day Closes presents peaceful ideas about the end of life by referring back to the life lived and the work accomplished. It can even provide comfort to those of us who are left to grieve the loss of someone we love by reminding us of the overwhelming peace they experience after their days are done. The comfort it provides is emphasized by the powerful turn the piece takes before again drawing back for an ending that softly fades away.
you may have noticed they were watching me impeccably during that piece. That's because we were supposed to do it memorized, and I gave them a lift up your folders gesture. I'm sorry about that. Beautiful singing, though. Thank you so much. That's sort of a fitting piece to talk about time coming to an end, because this is the time of the concert, not in your program, where I'd like to take a couple of minutes and acknowledge our seniors in choir who are singing in their last performance with the choir, unless you also count commencement in another week or two. I'm going to invite these students to come down, and then we'll give them a group round of applause when they're all done. We're going to start with Graham Harris. Graham is in his first semester in choir right now. I badgered him for about 3 years to join, and after he sang lessons with me for a few semesters, I finally was able to get him to come into audition. It's been great having him this semester. He also made me bread the other day, which was really, really nice. I also welcome to the stage Carissa Varga, history major. Carissa is in her first year with the Hendricks Choir, sang with us in her first candlelight services last semester, and it's been a treat having her in the choir. Trevor Lowe, chemistry major, also a music minor, go music department, woohoo! Trevor is in his third year in the Hendricks Choir, I believe. Also went to Prague and Vienna with us a couple of summers ago, and he studies voice with me as well, and it's great having him here in the ensemble. Kathleen Mowry, coming down. Kathleen is a French major with a secondary education minor. Kathleen has twice served as a student officer as our director of social media and marketing and public relations management. She's also the one who's really, really good at pointing out to me when I don't know what's going on. So bravo, Kathleen. I will miss your sense of humor and your frankness in rehearsal at times. So thank you very much, Kathleen. Andrew Fleming, who you heard from earlier. Now we're into the students, by the way, who have had in choir for 4 consecutive years. And so that was also my first year. Their freshman year was my freshman year at Hendricks. And so this is very bittersweet for me, singing farewell to these fine musicians as they walk down here. Andrew Fleming is a history major, also was voted by his peers as the winner of the annual Hendricks Choir Award for his dedication and service and commitment and positivity that he brings into choir every day. Last year was choir president, this year is choir vice president. And I wish him, of course, all the very, very best. Jacob Neely, another North Midwesterner like myself. Jacob comes from Michigan. I'll give you the whole background if you'd like it. Jacob's a double major of international relations and German, and spent last year studying in Austria before coming back and joining the choir again right away. Lauren Peterson, also known as LP, health sciences major and a psychology minor. Lauren is going to be around again next year, not at Hendricks, but over at UCA doing her graduate degree in physical therapy, right? Yeah, there we go, great. She's also a really good babysitter, as my kids will attest. Lauren also has the distinction of having balanced the busy life of being a student musician and a student athlete. She played on the volleyball team for 4 years, while also singing in choir, and that is a huge demand on one's time, and I'm endlessly impressed by that. And then our last senior to invite down is Delaney Wells. Delaney has been choir treasurer in the past. She's an elementary education major, another music minor, and I'm sure will make a stellar teacher working with children. And she's student teaching right now and still singing in Hendricks Choir, so bravo to her. And did I get all the seniors? God, I hope so. Would you please, I just want to say to all of you, thank you so much for what you've done for this school, for this choir, for me as a teacher and a musician, and as a person, and I can't say nice enough things about all of you. So thank you all very much. Let's give them a round of applause. We have one more speaker from the psychology department to offer some words for you, and then a final piece after that, after which I hope you'll come over to the Trishman Gallery and join us for a reception. Thank you so much again for being here.
third grade, my teacher's favorite quote was, "Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars." She had 2 different posters of this Norman Peale quote, and one was on her door so that we never failed to see it every day when we walked into class. Almost daily, she never failed to remind us to shoot for the moon. Luckily, we never found it cheesy or repetitive, but probably only because we were third graders. Just like the moon, we often shoot for being happy, but be warned, over-idealizing happiness can be counterproductive to our own well-being. Research by Dr. Lana Catalino shows that individuals who value happiness to an extreme have lower well-being outcomes, mostly in the form of reduced psychological resources, like resilience or self-compassion. This reduction in resources comes from beliefs that how happy we are in any given moment speaks to our worth as a person. So let's take a moment and step back. What is happiness? It's hard to define. I asked around campus for a definition, and every answer I got was different. It's a moment, it's a memory, it's a feeling, or it's a relationship. And despite all these simple one-word answers, a lot of the reactions I got at first were puzzled faces full of contemplation. The struggle to define happiness and then pursue that subjective definition can lead us astray. Nevertheless, people often find it easier to identify instances in which they felt happiness or activities that bring them joy. Truly, it's making room for these activities rather than pursuing happiness in a moment-to-moment fashion that can boost our well-being. Research has shown that prioritizing positive experiences rather than the abstract idea of happiness can help us lead happier lives. So be intentional. Set a small chunk of time aside each day for meditation or playing with a pet or any other simple experience that brings you a positive feeling. And that feeling doesn't need to be happiness. It can be gratitude, amusement, hope, awe, love, or even just calm contentment. In this final song, we hope you feel and or hear one of these emotions.
This next song, called The Lake Isle, can best be described as one that is, like life itself, ethereal, magical, atmospheric, and full of freedom. This song beckons me back to my childhood sense of wanderlust. We all grow up with these visceral experiences that shape the rest of our lives. For me, the Lake Isle takes me back to the valleys of California I used to live in, which were always drenched in the scent of orange and lavender, and all the mountains my family and I climbed while there. The Arizona and Texas desert, road trips during the winter over the Rocky Mountains, the streams and creeks my sister and I used to play in at my grandparents' house in the Pennsylvanian countryside, and of course, all of the beautiful nature I've experienced in Arkansas. As cheesy as it may sound, the grandeur in which this piece sounds gestures to the mountains of life we must all climb, the running streams of our hearts, and finding the majesty and splendor in the quaintness that occupies our everyday life. I should mention that you may not be able to hear the words that we're singing. This piece and the beauty of life that reflects it is sublime in that they are both beautiful and haunting at the same time. They both transcend rationality, and in that they are both beyond words, both of which can only be described as feelings and emotions. Life should be measured by the mountains that one climbs, flowers which fill the spring air with warm sweetness, the sunsets of each new day, and even the sunset at the end of a life. But most of all, what is even more heartbreakingly beautiful and glorious is the people which fill your life. I would like to say thank you to my significant other, Blake, who couldn't be here tonight, my best friends, Oliver and Haley, my bestest friend of all, Lexi, who happens to be my sister, and my mother. Hi, Mom. I would also like to say thank you to all the beautiful people I have had the privilege of singing with 3 days a week, along with Dr. Morgan and our pianist, Tim, who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you for making music with me and adding a remarkable amount of joy and hygge to my life. Without all the aforementioned people, there would be no beauty to life. Without further ado, here is The Lake Isle.
Thank